Hello and welcome. You're watching India Fights. Back with me, your host Rajat Kane. Well, in this episode of show, we'll take up how much does the COVID illness impacts our mental health, both during the course of illness as well as the recovery period. We have seen COVID has been extremely severe in the second wave that we just experienced during the months of March, April, and May. Besides the psychological toll it takes on the patients and the family members or those who are near and dear to them, there is also an issue involved regarding mental health and how it impacts mental health of the patient who have suffered or has just recovered from COVID illness. To discuss on this extremely important issue, we join with a panel of two guests, Dr. Gauri Shankar Kaloia. He is Associate Professor, Department of Psychiatry and Mental Health in AIIMS. Many thanks, Ms. Dr. Kaloia, for joining us. And Dr. Sunila Garg, Director, Professor, Community Medicine from Maulana Azad Medical College, Delhi. Many thanks, Dr. Sunila Garg. Good to have you on the show once again. Well, let me start with you, Dr. Gauri Shankar. So first up, so far in the studies that we have conducted, informal studies as well, what has been the response of patients who have recovered from the COVID illness during recovery phase and the impact it has caused on the mental health?
Yeah, actually, many of the patients they reported like loss of sense, loss of smell, and loss of taste.
Right.
So this is basically related to loss of gray matter. So ultimately, like after the recovery, many of the patients they reported symptoms of anxiety, depression, a problem in decision making, problem in problem solving skills, and memory related issues.
Right. So is
So
it
we,
is
we
it
do
conf-
not know
Yeah.
why this happened. This is
Uh-huh.
because due to lack of oxygen or
Okay.
due to direct effect of coronavirus. That is not yet clear.
Sir, before I move to Dr. Garg, just one small question to you, Dr. Gauri Shankar. Does this sort of, impact on the gray matter, as you mentioned, or mental health in a broader sense, we say, is it confined to a particular age group of patients or recoveries? Or, I mean, are we seeing a trend here?
Yeah. Actually, there are if there is a comorbidity, there is a possibility of like compromised mental health, like in case of diabetes, in case of stroke or heart problems. So there must be some symptoms of anxiety and depression, as well as some other cognitive deficits seen in many of the cases. So so in these cases also due to corona, the like maximum patients, those who are having 45 plus age, they have reported more symptoms than the younger one.
Right. Many thanks, sir. So I'll just come back to you. Dr. Sunila Garg, thanks to be a part of the show. Ma'am, I mean, your take, how much does COVID has affected gray matters or say mental health in a larger sense? I mean, especially your interaction with the ones who have survived COVID illness.
Yeah, thank you, Rajat, for having me on the show and asking this very important question. Because recently we have taken a study which is involving follow up for immediate 3 months and then subsequently from 3 to 6 months. So, what is most important is that people still complain of, even if they have recovered, they still complain of loss of, smell or loss of taste. And also there is memory loss, and they'll say that we can't do many tasks together. Like earlier we were doing one task, second task, third task, so that is one of the important things. But along with that, this also precipitates anxiety, stress, and depression. That is one thing which is as a manifestation. If they cannot smell, if they cannot sleep, there is insomnia also. So obviously this leads to anxiety and depression as well. So kind of they always stay in a state of fear, continuously, and that's where they cannot come out of it. And you had asked one very valid question, that who are the ones who are at risk, apart from the persons, as Dr. Gauri Shankar had very nicely pointed out, that these are elderlies, and plus the ones who are suffering from
Comorbidities.
but the ones who have longer period of hospitalization also, I'll say that they are much more vulnerable also. So that is where we have to keep in mind, and always continuously be on the lookout for these patients for continuous support. Thank you.
Right, right. Dr. Garg, as you mentioned that, especially patients who have been hospitalized for longer durations, at the same times, the ones who have recovered and they are facing, they're having problems in decision making or performing multiple tasks as they used to do in the usual life prior to getting infected from COVID. What sort of, the larger medical issues could, I'm saying with a caveat, this mental health manifest in days to come? What other risk these patients would face or these recoveries would face?
You see, one of the important issues otherwise also in a country like India, we have a huge population, otherwise also mental health issues, and particularly since Dr. Gauri Shankar is from that field, he will realize that how much extent of depression is so very common otherwise, because of a lot of stress and strain in day-to-day life. Now, compounded by this SARS-CoV-2 infection, which is, kind of associated with lot of stigma, discrimination, fear and anxiety. It's not unusual to see, that quite a number of patients, I'll say substantial number, have this in various forms. Some may have milder in nature, that those who suffer from that. And particularly if we were to look at phase 1 also, and we were looking at how much stigma and discrimination was there with regard to healthcare workers as well. So they did not only suffer from isolation or stigma, but depression was also another important part of it, which is indirectly also related to COVID-19 infection, because they were away from the families and all that. But coming to the organic part, as we know that the virus enters through the olfactory route and it infects the gray matter of the brain, which is responsible for the smell and taste, and particularly it's responsible for multitasking. This is where, it is important. And now, since we have got, let's say, 3 crore individuals, and I will say it is almost, against one individual, if I take 10 as, mildly infected or asymptomatic, those who have not been brought within the formal system. So it's a huge burden of the disease, which we see in connection with SARS-CoV-2. And again, we have to realize that India is a diabetic capital of the world, and Delhi is a diabetic capital of India. So that is where you see in metros, we see all these chronic diseases, non-communicable diseases. And as it is also, stroke also is a part of our non-communicable disease program, which is largely because of hypertension and cardiovascular diseases. So these are the ones which are compounded by, SARS-CoV-2 infection, and they are the ones who are, making it's a kind of a dual burden, I'll say. So, particular things like, if insomnia or loss of smell or taste are related to SARS-CoV-2. But, when we talk of, forgetfulness, loss of memory, and all that could be because of depression as well.
Okay. Right. That's really important, ma'am. Many thanks for elucidating on this extremely important aspect. Of course, our viewers are watching this and they would be extremely mindful of these things, what experts are telling us, and especially the ones who have had any relatives at home, somebody, either the parents or children or the partners who have just recovered from COVID. There has to be an extreme care when it comes to, the depression or psychological issues. Dr. Gauri Shankar, sir, as we're discussing about, say, psychological issues faced by those ones who have recovered, and of course, like the ones who have not recovered, have passed, have unfortunately haven't been able to survive, especially the impact it leaves on their relatives, on their family members. So what is those things which all of us needs to look at?
Yeah. Actually, like in one of the study, it is mentioned that around 50% of the recovered patients from COVID, they have developed neuropsychological issues. Neuropsychological issues means either they are having memory problem or problem solving problem or decision making problem. So all these things basically add to the burden to the family and the person. Why? Because due to Corona, there are so many issues, psychological issues cropped up, and these cognitive deficits will also add on those things. Like suppose a person complaining of forgetting, like memory loss.
Right.
So what will be the implications on the family members? So everybody will be like disturbed. Like the person forgets where is the key. Person ask others where is this thing or that thing.
Right.
So everybody is like the harmony is disturbed in this case. So others also develop some types of reaction which may increase their stress.
Okay.
And they may, it may lead to depression or some anxiety features in family members also. So it is not only the person who has suffered from cognitive deficits or depression or anxiety, the whole family, I think the whole family is suffering in this case. And 15% is a quite big number in our country.
Absolutely.
15%, yeah, it is, and we do not have that much mental health professionals or neurologists or psychiatrists, clinical psychologists to provide these services to these patients. So in coming days, I think this would be the major threat for the family members and the patient, and major problem for the healthcare providers to meet out their needs. So like to assess the cognitive deficits, there are different tests we can assess. Even through interview also we can assess, and we can find out that yes, there are some deficits. But working on those deficits, giving them retraining to acquire again those laws, so it will be again time-taking process and takes lots of time.
Dr. Gauri Shankar, that's really a candid, explanation that you've given, especially in terms of the healthcare professionals and especially personnel in the field of psychiatry and psychology having dearth of that. At the same time, are we still seeing tendency among people that they're still hesitant to come forward and reach out for professional medical help when it comes to psychological issues or any trauma that they have suffered of late?
Yeah, you have rightly said this, because Madam has also mentioned already there is a stigma associated with COVID. You know that people do not want to say that yes, they are positive or this. They generally had their symptoms. That is one thing. And stigma is already associated with psychiatric disorders, even it is mild, moderate, or severe type of any type of psychiatric disorders. No one wants to say that there is some person in the family who is having this problem. Everyone is had this problem. So if we are hiding, if the stigma is associated, it means our help-seeking behavior, treatment-seeking behavior will be lagging behind. We do not come forward for treatment seeking until unless the problem get worsened, and then it will be very difficult to manage. Like if the case becomes severe, so it will be difficult to manage. So mental health professionals and other healthcare professionals should also work on stigma, and so awareness should be spread in the population so they can come forward for seeking help for their problems, whatever it is.
Right.
Because most of the time they think it is due to their weakness or due to their past life karmas or whatever it is. Still there are people, they believe in this thing rather than considering it is a illness, like lifestyle related illness, hypertension, diabetes. The same way psychiatric illnesses are also.
Right. Absolutely. Dr. Sunila Garg, do you also agree that, most of people in our country, they still are fairly dogmatic when it comes to, mental health. They attribute it to, say, other factors rather than taking medical help or being upfront about it, agreeing or at least accepting that they have a problem and it requires medical attention.
Rajat, absolutely right. Because you see, in considering a psychiatrist, an Indian situation is considered as a taboo. Because people think that if you're going to a psychiatrist or you're going to a counselor in a psychiatry department as well, they don't take it in the right perspective. And even if
Right.
you ask a very educated person, also, I've seen, amongst our medical students and all that, quite a number of times they'll say, Madam, what is the need to go to a psychiatrist? Is there anything else, what we can do? And another thing, what we have observed, which Dr. Gauri Shankar also pointed out, that in males we have got more of depression. Number one, the
Okay.
females have got more of anxiety. Now, why there is more of anxiety? Because they're scared of how they're going to take care of day-to-day activities and all that, or they may pass on the infection to their children. Another thing, what we have to remember is that during COVID, from the gender perspective, if you look at the whole episode, the women are not in the telecommutable jobs. So quite a number of the women have also lost their jobs as a result of, the COVID pandemic. And that is one of the reasons also for depression, when compounded by the infection itself. Because during this wave 2, we found that there was virtually no family which was not affected. Earlier, we would see
Absolutely.
one odd family, now families upon families, they are, being infected. And, particularly it has taken a toll on women's life in particular, because they are not only infected, but again affected as well. Because if you will see our own families, they are supposed to take care of the children, they're supposed to take care of the elderly, they are supposed to take care of themselves, those who are sick, and they're supposed to take care of the sick individuals as well. So the whole atmosphere in the family itself is kind of a, which needs a, I'll say, a lot of intervention from the part of, counselors and all that. And several states have come out with the telehealth guidance also. Like if I, and telecommunication has been there in state of, if I'll say, Kerala or Telangana or Odisha and all that. So like that, we have got counseling numbers, so that, telecounseling becomes, if people have a taboo in visiting them. And right now, this was not the time when people were visiting the healthcare facilities.
Right.
But then again, it is important to seek help through telecounseling. So these are some of the important issues which I think they have to be taken on the forefront. And as it is, as I said, that every time, we are a kind of a depressed nation. If you were to think of Finland and all, in happiness index also we go much down. So that is where we have to see that, so this is, compounded by huge burden of disease. Today, as I told you earlier, also we have more than 3 crore individuals which are apparently, there with us. That means who are tested cases. So we, in otherwise also, when we are low in happiness index, so we have to make some, kind of interventions on an urgent basis. So that means we have to follow a life cycle approach, right from birth till, from pediatrics to geriatrics. A happy child is one where the family is happy. A happy woman is one, or a happy man is one where the family is happy. Elderlies are happy if we take care of the elderlies, because we are seeing a lot of elderlies. Otherwise, also they suffer from depression and loneliness, because you see, everyone, this is a world of survival of fittest. So that's where we need to take care. And particularly in COVID times, it has become all the more important to preserve and protect your elderlies, and not only
Right.
protect them from the infection, but also, keep their morale very high. So that is important.
Right, right. Extremely important to keep morale high of the elderly and those members of family who have had adverse impact of COVID recovery, illness, and of course, the survival. Ma'am, extremely thankful for all the views that both of you are giving on the show. It's extremely valuable for everyone who's watching it, and not just for them, but for everyone in their circle. They can at least pass on the word, what caveats, what we need to do, how sensitive, how sensibly we have to handle things, especially the ones who have survived severe illness of COVID, and more so in the second wave, where we saw families after families of the ones we know, acquaintance over acquaintance, suffering, struggling, and getting impacted by COVID. Dr. Gauri Shankar, as we approach the close of the show, sir, it's important to understand, what early signs could be there where we can raise a red flag and at least start, or at least orienting ourselves for treatment of those who are suffering with mental illness, or having any issues with the mental health post recovery, or during, or even during illness. of COVID-19? Early signs, sir.
Yeah, like the most prevalent sign is like the person doesn't want to interact with other. That is the
Okay.
most prevalent sign. The person to remain aloof, or the mood low or depressed. So there might be some anxiety symptoms, and insomnia is very common.
Okay.
But let me tell you one thing. The problem lies in so many areas, and we have to plan now. This is the high time. We can't ignore like the child who has seen death in the family. So how it will affect the child, how the child will react. So the lady who lost her husband, so how she is going to live in future. So and those who have lost their job and other things. So there are so many crises, and people have seen trauma, people are suffering, people have no earnings. So there are so many issues which increase the which are responsible for increasing the mental illness, which are responsible for depression, anxiety, insomnia. So we have to tackle all those issues. We have to plan some survey, and we find out what are the problem, how we can resolve these issues, what are the brief interventions can be planned for the children, for adult, for geriatric population, because one treatment cannot be applied to all population. Their needs are different, so psychological interventions should also be different. So and then some of them are in need of medical care, some of them are in need of economic support. So we have to take overall aspect of their life, not just one. However, mental health is the most prominent, because if mental health is intact, they can manage many of the other things. If mental health is not intact, it will be very difficult for them to even manage the day-to-day activities. So we have to work on these issues.
Right, absolutely. Mental health is of paramount concern for everyone's. I mean, if you're mentally fit, mentally healthy, you can face any adversity. I mean, you can obviously overcome it and you can carry on with your day-to-day activity. Dr. Sunila Garg, ma'am, as we're readying ourselves to n number of waves as per some experts, or the third wave as per the experts here, because it's a virus, it'll mutate, it'll have one wave or the other. Waves could be severe than the previous ones. What is the basic things that all of us needs to prepare for?
Again, I'll say a very futuristic and important viewpoint and a question as well. I'll say that, how we deal currently, that means how we are opening now, will have an impact on the third wave. Third wave will come in whatever form it comes. It may be very mild in nature, and it may just pass away kind of. But if we lower our guard, and I'll give you an example of Maharashtra. And you see, they have got a 5 stages of opening the lockdown. So they have taken into consideration the seropositivity, and along with that, the number of beds, oxygen beds, the patients are occupying. The more number of beds the patient occupy, and the more is the seropositivity. That means more than 10% and all. They call it as level 3. So they have now brought it to level 3, and they have become restrictive in terms of opening up. The second part is that, Rajat, I think in your on your platform, I have seen several times, the markets, and when they open up, people just don't, they don't remember what they have gone through, how their families have gone through. So that is where it is important that today I will say that mask is the most important social vaccine. In first wave, we did not have, vaccination. It was masks which took care of that. And we must have, effective PPEs which are available to the healthcare providers as well, because a lot of them are, scared of that also, which gives them a lot of anxiety. So that is another important thing. And I call it as MTV. That means masking testing, treating, and tracking, which will, because we are now getting the variants also, so we have to do that, and vaccination and vaccination. There is no excuse from vaccination. Now we have gone to about 30 crores, but then we have to go to a mile of 160 crores with 2 doses. So that's where we need to look at that we follow all these guidelines. But we also have to keep in mind, as you pointed out, that since whole this topic is around depression, our people, initially who are there, they're all in the kind of denial mode, then they go into angry mode and all, then they say that okay, maybe I'm all right, my grandmother is not all right and all that, and then they go into a phase of depression, and gradually everybody accepts them, kind of, ठीक है, ये तो ऐसा ही है करके, something like that.
Yeah.
So this is where we don't have to let this stage come. We have to, every time, whether it's a child or it's a elderly or it's a mother or a father or a husband or a wife, there comes the role of families. And in India, we have this advantage of family. We don't have this in any other country. So families have got a very, very critical role in addressing our, anxiety-related disorders or depression and all that, because we can come out of this. But then again, we have to empower ourselves that we have gone through a bad phase, and we have to prepare ourselves for the worst also. And then again, the systems are preparing themselves with regard to third wave in terms of, in what way it may come. It may affect anybody, elderly, it may affect children. So we require manpower, and capacity building as well. But most important is the human behavior, empowerment, and the ability to understand that virus has not gone out of our lives, and it will never go out till it goes out of globe. And we are secure, India is a signatory to Global Health Security Agenda, where, it is a pact between CDC Atlanta and our Indian government, and our Prime Minister had also gone during Obama's time. So under which we are taking a lot of actions, to prevent this different waves of COVID pandemic and all that. But you see, it's a virus. We have to take.
Right, Dr. Garg. Many thanks for your remarks and explaining to us the important dimensions of mental health vis-a-vis COVID. Many thanks, Dr. Gauri Shankar Kaloia from AIIMS, for, of course, shedding light on what is that we all need to do and what we need to be extremely careful about when it comes to mental health of COVID patients. Well, as we heard our experts, our dear viewers, there was a small appeal by RSTV. Please keep following COVID-appropriate behavior. The pandemic is not over yet. It can hit us in any form. So please keep taking all the precautions, like wearing face masks, maintaining physical distancing, and keeping hygiene by keep washing your hands and face at regular intervals. Well, that's it in this edition of India Fights Back. Goodbye.